Today we are going to know, and as you saw on the cover, 3 stories where haunted houses are the protagonists. And where the events that took place some time ago perhaps are what triggered all the paranormal activity that occurs to this day. What are your thoughts on the 3 stories? Were you familiar with them? And if in your locality, in your town or in your province there is any that is good to bring to the channel, always trying to get out of those classic stories that we know so far, remember that I leave you in a pinned comment all the important links, whether to the channel store, to my social networks, or also to my secondary channel. And also remember that you can send me your own paranormal experience to the WhatsApp that appears on screen at this moment. It doesn't matter the number of audios, it doesn't matter the duration, you can add photos or videos or anything you think is appropriate to make your story as complete as possible. I will review everything later and I will contact you if necessary. Now friends, we are about to start with today's 3 stories. Enjoy it! In this mysterious house located in Mexico City, more precisely in the San Miguel Chapultepec neighborhood on Jose Vasconcelos Street, 125 was and currently is the scene of events that constantly challenge logic. Everything that occurs there is odd. In fact, some people don't dare to walk on the sidewalk near its windows or doors because they hear screams, laments, noises, knowing that the property is empty, it's abandoned. On one occasion, a couple entered this place trying to find out how true these stories were, and what they felt inside was so intense that it left them more than traumatized. Other people, perhaps more sensitive, avoid going through the door of this house because they can't stand the bad energies that come out from inside. They say there have always been entities wandering around, but not only that. Some claim there are demons, beings from the lower astral that feed on fear and people. But the question is, why does it happen? And to answer this, we will have to know at least a little about the history of the famous Moira house. While there are countless paranormal stories told by the people who approach this place, some entered out of curiosity, others who are simply neighbors, or perhaps heard from a third party the different experiences they suffered there inside. The reality is that this eerie house, painted entirely black, a not minor detail, was the scene of a mysterious event that triggered in turn a regrettable second event, even more tragic. The chronicles tell about a boy named Marco. He was at that time only 8 years old. We are located in May of 1971. The thing is, he had been talking to his friends about this house for weeks, especially about what was happening inside, about the screams, about the laments that could be heard at night, about the ghosts that everyone knew were kept captive inside for some strange reason. The curiosity grew, challenges arose among them to see who dared to enter, and so far no one had enough courage. Until Marco, and it is said that he did it in total secrecy. Late one afternoon he left home, telling his mom he was going to a friend's house. But the reality is that he went directly to this mysterious house, that is, he went to La Moira. He knew how to get in, so, without thinking too much, he ventured into the house, finding himself in a large, abandoned, dirty and very dark hall. In all the comments, it was always said that the screams, cries and blows came from the upper floor for some reason. So Marco slowly climbed up the stairs, step by step, looking up, hoping to see something, perhaps expecting to encounter a ghost. But no. The place was in total silence, only the creaking of the wood with each step could be heard. And what came next was even more terrifying than seeing a ghost. Marco reached the first floor. He found a hallway that distributed some of the rooms, and for some reason, one of the doors caught his attention. At one point, he said he heard many voices calling him from inside there. He went straight to it, and upon entering, he found an image that would traumatize him for the rest of his days, and that would be the trigger for what would happen. Years later, he found the body of a man hanging from one of the old roof beams. He stood frozen for a few seconds, looking and trying to process this. Keep in mind that he was just an 8-year-old boy. He stayed like that until he ran off, returned to his house, and crying inconsolably, told his mom everything he saw. It was never known who this man was, why he was there, and also why he made that regrettable decision. After that day, Marco was not the same. He was hurt, very psychologically affected by seeing that dead man in front of him. He had heard those voices calling him, and that house had something more that no one could explain. The years passed, the stories in this place kept emerging. There were even people who conducted tours to the house, but they stopped doing so as the presences began to manifest more aggressively. The house remained exactly the same, painted entirely black, abandoned and witnessing the fear of everyone who passed nearby. Just over 10 years passed, and Marco, that 10-year-old boy now 18, felt for some reason the need to return to it again. Without telling absolutely anyone, one night he left his house, walked slowly to that door that scared him so much 10 years ago, and entered. Never to come out again. Just as you hear it, Marco, that night he entered the Moira, went up to the first floor. He entered that room where he saw that man, where he heard the voices, and where many assure that demons dwell. And Marco never came out again. The reports mention a desperate search by his family and the police. And a few hours later, upon entering this house, they found him in that room, hanging like that man he saw when he was 8 years old. No one knew why he made this decision, although some assured at that time, being just a boy, something bad stayed in him, and that those voices called him again, but this time to take possession of his soul. Years ago, the owner of this property held a call for artists, and that it worked in some way to prove that the energies inside there are quite heavy. Each of these painters had to intervene at will and express their feelings at the moment on the internal walls of the house. The curious thing was that, and obviously without agreeing, they all painted about sadness, anguish, anger, desolation, darkness, terror. That's why several paranormal investigators confirmed that inside this house and beyond the different trapped entities, there are several demons that can even possess the living. It is also known that in this place, years ago, spiritualist sessions were practiced, where many people ended up being physically, psychically, and also possessed. For this reason, they suspended and stopped doing it. Today, it is a private residence. There is no data if someone lives there permanently or it is simply uninhabited. Apparently, it is being used as a lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender community cultural center. But what is known is that the Moira house is one of the most haunted places so far. In this case, we go to the province of Santa Fe, where again a tragedy. Apparently, it is the beginning of a series of paranormal events that prevent not only people from living in this place, but also from being renovated or being able to rent or sell. This old house, located on Freire Avenue and February 3rd in the province of Santa Fe, houses many stories from neighbors. Specifically, they claim to see things without explanation. While some believe they are just myths that have been fueled by word of mouth, others think the exact opposite and refute the skeptics, telling everything that happened there and still happens. In fact, something very curious is that for some time now, no family has been able to live there for more than a few weeks, and they leave. The bricklayers, for example, who are hired repeatedly to fix some issues, also abandon their jobs due to hearing noises, screams, various tools that get lost or change places. They hiss, they claim to experience unbearable moments. But I repeat that always, and like everywhere, there are people who never saw or felt anything. In fact, there is the testimony of a woman who lived many years in this house, and her memories are only of happiness and love. The question is, why do some feel and others do not? Other neighbors swear they have heard, and while the property is empty, noises of furniture moving, crying, banging. Seeing the lights turn on and off by themselves, that the doorbell rings without anyone touching it. Among several other things, like also seeing a shadow that wanders around the entire house. No one understands the origin of all this. The thing is, beyond being real honor, there is a sad story related to a family that lived within its walls. The Camino's family in 1968 suffered a severe blow. One of the family's twins, just 9 years old, had gone out to the sidewalk to play with his tricycle. The mother was just bathing one of his brothers. This boy went down to the street and a distracted truck driver hit him, ran him over. According to the chronicles, the driver didn't realize and continued on his way, leaving the boy's body lying on the asphalt. It was the neighbors who stopped him blocks further ahead. They reproached him for the incident, and this man, upon realizing, began to hit his head against the truck until he died. This part of the story is not entirely clear or confirmed, therefore it is not known if it is exactly like this. The issue was that this boy died. The family continued their life as best as possible and going through a lot of sadness, and years later, when the parents of the
family die,
the children decide to sell the house. Some say that from that exact moment, the paranormal took over the house. And to finish this trilogy, we are going to travel to India, where we will learn the story of a house that is considered the most haunted in this country. But not only that, there was the tragedy of a person because of everything that happens inside. Where not only are there apparitions, noises are heard or presences are felt. Years ago, a young Russian woman entered to fulfill a curious bet and ended up being attacked by entities with such aggression that they ended up killing her from internal bleeding. The blows were produced by different objects and woods that flew uncontrollably inside the house. No one ever imagined that something like this could happen. Until that moment, and as often happens, it was believed that all these stories stemmed from a simple, exaggerated or invented legend, which is certainly the case many times. But also these stories and legends stem from real, tragic and regrettable situations, which feed very dark and unknown energies for a long time. This house was built by the Mellos in 1924, a high-class family and apparently without any kind of problems. But as often happens, appearances can be deceiving. As the years went by, this place hosted important parties, gatherings, both family and friends or partners from different work projects. The issue was that in 1934, the wife of this family began having an affair with her brother-in-law. The relationship deteriorated until everything came to light, although not surprisingly. She was the one who, no longer able to bear the situation, decided during a family meeting to tell her husband in order to reach a peaceful agreement, and taking advantage of having people as witnesses. And while everything seemed to be going well, fury took over the brothers and one of
them died.
Precisely the lover. Everyone was in shock. They didn't understand why all this had happened, and the news about this issue spread everywhere. And this family, which until that moment was flooded with fortune, love and happiness, began a fall, without pause. Another chronicle mentions that these two brothers, for a strange reason that no one understood, lost control and killed each other at a party. Although a romantic relationship always appears directly or indirectly. And there was also talk of a pact with dark entities in exchange for fortune, prosperity and health. Many years passed, but ultimately the house beyond everything ended up empty and abandoned. Many decades have passed since that moment, and it still remains so today. At first, some families tried to live there, but it was impossible because the paranormal activity was so evident that they couldn't stand it. Everyone, absolutely everyone, and always mention a man who walks around the house with his head bleeding. It is believed to be Mello's brother, and also an extremely dark shadow. If you spot it, it's best to avoid approaching and even leave the area, as they claim it is highly aggressive. A medium who entered in the 90s after the death of the Russian woman. He assured that inside it dwelled more than one demon and that event with the family that murder generated. A portal that allows this energy to survive in a very strong way. I would like to know, what do you think about it? Nowadays, very few dare to enter. Some feel nothing, but most claim to see, hear or feel something that invites you to leave, never to return. The House of Mello is a place where nothing can protect you. And some claim that once inside, you're no longer in this dimension, at least not in one where you're safe. Friends, thank you very much for making it to the end. I hope you enjoyed these 3 stories. I say goodbye until the next chapter, and now I send a big hug to all of you.